So you want to be fully prepared for the final shape's launch day, but you don't really know how to go about doing so. And with Bungie revealing that the day 1 raid race is happening only 3 days after the launch of the final shape, you are probably feeling overwhelmed. Well, today I'm here to explain to you how you can be prepared in the best and most efficient way possible so you can take on the Witness day 1. Today's guide will highlight the best way to get to the 5th column of the artifact to get to the best of the best mods, what items and materials you should stockpile on, and more. While the topics I cover in this video are ordered from most important to least important, I've still left timestamps in the description below in case you'd like to skip around to certain parts in this video. So with that being said, I'm SniperKH, and let's get to the video. Alright, let's begin with the first thing you should do for prepping for the final shape, which is the most fun part of prepping, with that being bounty prepping. Now, if you couldn't hear the sarcasm in my voice, then allow me to tell you that this part of prepping is the worst part, as it's slow and boring, but it is arguably the most important part to be prepared as possible. Basically, for bounty prepping, you want to hoard as many bounties as you can, with you prioritizing weekly bounties, then daily bounties, and then repeatable bounties, as weekly bounties grant the most XP per bounty at 12,000 XP, then dailies being the second most at 6,000 XP, and then repeatables being the lowest amount at 3,000. Now, the main reason why I'm highlighting this part of prepping first and why this guide is out fairly early is because if you do bounty prepping right, this process will take 6 weeks to complete, which I will explain why a little later. Regarding which vendors give weekly bounties, you can get weekly bounties from Hawthorne in the Tower, Shahan in the Cosmodrome, Varix on Europa, Erismore on the Moon, Lectern of Enchantment on the Moon, Nimbus on Neomuna, and Petrovenge in the Dreaming City. Across all these vendors, you can get a total of 25 weekly bounties. If you were to stockpile every weekly bounty for day 1 of the final shape, then you will have a total of 300,000 XP ready to be claimed on launch day. Not to mention the fact that this process can be done across all 3 of your characters, meaning that you can have 900,000 XP ready for day 1. Now, to go back for a moment, you may recall the fact that I said that if done correctly, this process will take 6 weeks. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, Petrovenge offers 7 weekly bounties, with one of those weekly bounties having 6 different variants of it, with each variant being only able to be claimed once every week. Meaning that if you started today, you would need to wait through 6 weekly resets to get all of the variants, which is why you should start bounty prepping right now. Hawthorne is a similar story, as she offers a total of 7 unique weekly bounties, but only offers 4 of them a week, so it should take you about 2 weeks to get all of the bounties. Once you've gotten all 25 weekly bounties, you should prioritize filling the rest of your bounty slots with daily bounties, since they all grant 6,000 XP per bounty, and with a number of daily bounties in the game, you can easily fill the rest of your slots. Now, if you were to calculate all the XP you'll have stockpiled for day 1 across your weekly and daily bounties, then you'll have a grand total of 528,000 XP for day 1 of the final shape. If you do this process across all 3 characters, you'll have a total of 1,584,000 XP, which will grant you almost 16 levels in the battle pass, which will give you massive progress towards your artifact. However, you can boost your XP gains even further with the help of the XP mods on your Ghost and Battle Pass XP bonuses, which will be good XP gains further. I know this process as a whole has a lot of information behind it, so feel free to return to this part of the video while prepping, but this is by far the most important part of day 1 prepping. If you'd like a valuable tool for day 1 prepping, then I've left a link in the top of the description below that acts as a checklist for you that you'll want to use as you're going into the final shape. Alright, so now that you have bounty prepped, what's next? Well, let's target the next big piece of information you'll want to know, being legendary shards. You may remember that with the This Week in Destiny blog post made during Season of the Witch, Bungie announced that legendary shards would be depreciated in the final shape, meaning if you're like me, you have several thousand legendary shards to get rid of. So how can you get rid of these shards? Well, with Season of the Witch's launch, the number of things in the game that cost legendary shards has been dramatically reduced, but there are some important resources that still require legendary shards. But I wanted to highlight the 2 most important resources to get. The first resource is none other than raid banners. Raid banners have been a must-have resource in Destiny since they were released back in Forsaken, as getting full ammo and ability energy at the start of dungeon and raid encounters is massively helpful. Well, you can still buy raid banners from Hawthorne in the Tower, with 10 raid banners costing 30 legendary shards. I'd highly recommend worrying about buying your raid banners as we near the release of the final shape, as depending on how many legendary shards you have, it'll take you a while to run through them. The second resource you should be investing your shards into is Phantasmal Fragments. While it may seem like a strange resource to invest into, this resource's value is going to skyrocket in the final shape, as it is easily obtainable and will be used to acquire Glimmer from the Cryptarch once legendary shards get snapped out of existence. Regarding where you can go and get phantasmal fragments, you can buy them from the Lectern of Enchantment on the moon for 10 legendary shards a pop. If you've loaded up the amount of raid banners and phantasmal fragments that you think you'll need, but still have leftover shards, then you can use them at Zerv for the exotic engram to chase armor rolls that you may be in search for. Regardless of how you choose to spend yours, it is recommended to get rid of them before June 3rd, as that's when the servers will shut down prior to the final shapes launch. Now that you've stockpiled on XP and invested your life savings of legendary shards into raid banners and other various materials, what else can you do to prepare? Well, we're now at the point of getting our hands onto materials that may come in handy in the final shape. There are 3 materials that I believe will be valuable when it comes down to beginning the 3-day countdown to the final shape. The first of those 3 materials will be enhancement cores. Now, most of you out there are probably drowning in enhancement cores, so if you are, then you shouldn't worry about getting more. But if you're like me and you can use some more, then there are some handy ways on how to get them. For starters, the shiny weapons you are farming from Onslaught can be dismantled into 7 enhancement cores in case your shiny weapons are dropping with undesirable rolls. Secondly, you can get 6 enhancement cores pretty easily by dismantling blue gear that is at an energy level of 8 or higher. And since you can buy blue gear from your collections, you can theoretically buy enhancement cores. The catch to this method is that you will need to invest 3 enhancement cores and 1 enhancement prism to get to level 8, but in return you'll get the 3 cores back that you invested and 3 more. I would only recommend this method if you're drowning in enhancement prisms, as if you're not, then there's no point in doing this. Outside of those 2 methods, the other best option is to do legend lost sectors, as they have a high drop chance for enhancement cores, with 3 dropping if they do drop, and with most legend lost sectors being doable in about 1 to 3 minutes. For the second material to focus, we have Ascendant Alloy. I've chosen to highlight Ascendant Alloy as we assume we'll be getting new weapons to craft in the final shape, so enhancing the perks on your crafted weapons will be a nice thing to do. Additionally, Bungie has confirmed that certain weapons we are grinding for currently will have the opportunity to get enhanced perks in the final shape, with these weapons including but not being limited to the new Nightfall weapons and the weapons from the Brave set. So having a large amount of alloys will prove to be valuable. Regarding where you can get these from, the methods from last year are still available, with Master Wellspring dropping them, but Savathun Spire, the Coil, and higher levels of Legend Onslaught can also drop Ascendant Alloys. For the final material to grind, I chose to put this last as it's more of an optional material to get, but we have the Paraversal Halls from the Star Horse and Zer's Treasure Hoard. I wanted to highlight this resource because these can prove to be fairly useful if you choose to min-max while leveling. While I do mention that min-maxing, I do predict that since we're getting 3 days to prep, there is a possibility that we won't have too large of a light level grind to do, so getting these might be unnecessary, but it wouldn't hurt to have a few ready for launch day. We have finally reached the last part of prepping, which is to stockpile on weapons and builds that you'll want to run on launch day. I do plan on releasing a video highlighting the best weapons to have for the day 1 raid race, since the last one I posted was for King's Fall back in 2022, but I wanted to highlight some weapons and builds to have for launch day of the final shape. For the weapons, I'll only be highlighting weapons from the Lightfall era of Destiny, meaning from February 28, 2023 to June 3, 2024. For starters, getting Mountaintop, Recluse, Midnight Coup, Hammerhead, Forbearance, and Falling Guillotine from the Brave set will be important, as all of these weapons are strong to some capacity. If you're not aware as to what rolls to get on these weapons, I made a video highlighting the Brave weapon set prior to Into the Light's launch, so I've left that video linked in the description below. For the rest of the weapons, I'll be rushing through them pretty quickly, but I'll be sure to flash their god rolls on screen so you can feel free to pause the video to view the god roll. Anyways, I'd highly recommend getting Conditional Finality from Root of Nightmares, Dragon's Breath from the Season 23 Battle Pass, Scatter Signal from Wish Engrams and the Coil, the Eremite from Witch Engrams and Altars of Summoning, the Supremacy from Last Wish, Apex Predator from Last Wish, and a Penance from Wish Engrams and the Coil. Once again, feel free to go back through those weapons and pause the video if you need to in order to know what rolls to get. Regarding what builds to have ready, it's more personal preference as to what to get, and with Prismatic releasing in the final shape, it makes sense that most players may not run many of these builds that we currently have, but I still want to highlight some builds that will be good in the final shape. For Warlocks, the Solar Sunbracers build, the Arc Fallen Sunstar build, and the Stasis Osmiomancy builds will all be a good start. For Hunters, the Arc Punch build, the Gerfalcon's Hunter build, and Infinite Tether build will be valuable in the final shape. For Titans, the Solar Bonk build and the Solar Incendiary build will be fine. You may have noticed I didn't highlight the Banner of War build for Titans, And the reason for that is that I am beyond confident that the Banner of War build will probably get nuked going into the final shape. If it somehow avoids being nerfed, then that build will easily find its way back onto that Titan build list. Up to this point, you have stockpiled on XP through bounties, loaded up on raid banners, phantasmal fragments, enhancement cores, ascendant alloys, paraversal halls, and got your hands on the best weapons and builds for the final shape. With all of that done, it is safe to say that you are now prepared for launch day. Of course, if any changes are announced between now and launch day, then I'll be sure to post a comment on this video talking about the change, alongside how it affects the prep guide. But you should be more than ready for launch day once it comes around, as long as you follow this guide. Anyways, that'll wrap up today's video. If you found it helpful, then be sure to drop a like and subscribe for more Destiny 2 content dropping weekly. Be sure to share this video with friends to make sure your friends are also going into launch day fully prepared to take the witness down. If you'd like to catch me live, then be sure to turn on my post notifications, as I've been streaming here more on YouTube, and I'd love to see you all there when I go live. Otherwise, follow my social media platforms for updates on when I upload, go live, and for additional content from me. With that being said, I'm SniperKH, and I'm out. Good luck with gaming.